All right, hello everybody. Welcome to our Zoom webinar. My name is Scott Richmond. I work in professional development. I'm sure many of you know who I am. I'm going to enjoy working with you for the next hour or so talking about the Zoom platform. We are going to cover a whole lot of things in this hour period. And so like I said to you, I will go ahead and post this video in YouTube. I will send a link to you. It may be late tonight. It might be tomorrow night before I get that link out. But then you can go and review any of those chats at any given time. Couple things as we get going today. First of all, there's 161 of you and only one of me. But I do have two folks on here with me. I've got my son, Jonathan Richmond. I've got my one of our secretaries, Alice Jones, who's on there as well. And they're going to be monitoring the chat feature. So obviously you guys are all muted already, so you can't use your microphones because there's no way to get anything done if you all started talking. Nor would I know who's talking to me because only 25 of the 160 of you are on one page at one time. So if you have questions while we're going along, you're going to write them in the chat. So open that chat window, and Jonathan and Alice will respond the best they can. If they have to pause me, they will. At the end of the session, I will stop and go back and answer any lingering questions that are still there, or if there's something you want me to repeat or do again. So first, I want to start today by talking about Zoom and the Zoom platform. And if you signed up for a free account normally, you would have been given an account that has two limits on it. Limit number one is 100 people in a chat at a time. Limit number two is 40-minute time limit. So I've been using Zoom now for about 3 or 4 years with my classes at Florida Southern College. And in doing so, what I have found is that that 40-minute time limit can be very, very troublesome, especially for me where I'm trying to talk with them for more than 40 minutes, and it literally cuts you off at 40 minutes. So I would do a call, we get cut off, I do another call, so I could do, maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours that way. Due to this coronavirus shutdown, the district, many districts have worked with Zoom, and Zoom has lifted the time limit. So you still have 100 people on a call, but the time limit is no longer there. And that's if you go through with your school district account through Clever, like I'm going to show you today. You're saying to yourself, but wait a minute, Scott, you told me there's 160 plus people on here with us. How are you doing that? Well, again, I work for Florida Southern College on the side as an adjunct, and about a year ago, they gave me a full pro version of Zoom, so I can go up to 300 people and no time limit. So therefore, I have had a call, actually yesterday morning, I think, Jonathan, if I'm right, we had 260 people with us. Yeah, 260 people with us yesterday morning, so I can do up to 300 if I have to. So that's something to know about Zoom. Second thing I want to highlight first and foremost up front is FERPA. If you don't know FERPA, you can look it up, F-E-R-P-A. It's the Privacy Rights Act specifically aimed at students. Students who are 18 years of age or younger and or enrolled in K-12 instruction. And basically it gives them privacy against us sharing their likenesses and their information. They're not names. So if you're going to use Zoom with your students, you need to keep FERPA first and foremost. We are recommending that you turn off student videos. We are definitely saying if you're going to record your session and put it online, that you turn off student videos. But I also understand that many of you out there are elementary teachers and you want to connect with your kiddos and they want to connect with you. And one of my good friends is a music teacher in middle school, and her first grade daughter was on Zoom, and you can see the picture of her at the computer. Yes, because she's seeing all her friends she hasn't seen in a week and a half and is tired of seeing mom, dad, baby brother. That's all she sees all day long. So I understand the connections wanting to be there. So I would tell you, if that's the case and you want to use video, you need to do a couple things. Number one, contact your principal first and let them know and make sure they're aware of it. That way, you have checked with them first and they can stand behind you and not say, well, I didn't know Scott Richmond was doing videos of the students. Number two, if you're going to record that session, do not post any recordings of student video. And then number three, if you want to do part session where you're just saying, hi, everybody, how are you? And then you want to turn the videos off, I'm going to show you all those settings today while we go through this process. So that's something you can do as well and start recording maybe afterwards. However, I strongly recommend that anything you do with students online, you record your sessions. You want to record your sessions so that you have an accurate record of what happened. You have an accurate record of what you've done online, all that kind of stuff. So I will show you various things today as we go through this process. And feel free to talk with my colleagues, Jonathan and Alice, concerning any questions you have. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to share my screen with you, and we're going to start out at the Clever website, which is the place you want to start all the time when you're doing Zoom through your new district upgraded account. And so I'm going to log in to Clever the same way I would. You all have the same login. They added this piece here yesterday, ladies and gentlemen, that you now have the reminder of it. And so students know how to log in as well. So your login is your Lawson number at hcps.net. Your password is your district password. You're going to click sign on. It's going to bring you to your dashboard. Sorry, I've got two logins there. This is your Clever dashboard. And basically, there's several sections. One of these is called the favorite section. Those of you who know me know last spring I took a hiatus and went and taught elementary at James, 5th grade math and science for half the year. And so I was there doing that. So obviously iReady, Khan Academy, Common Lit were things I was using with my students every day, even Typing Club. And so I favorited those things and put them up here. I've also since favorited Zoom. But if you don't have any favorites, doesn't mean you don't have access to these apps. You just got to scroll down on your page. And so I'm going to go all the way to the bottom where I will find more apps. And here is that Zoom link that we've added in there for you as a district. And if you want this to appear in your favorites, all you do is click on a little heart and it'll go up to the top and be in your favorites like mine is here. Also on this page, and these things are changing daily, is this center section on e-learning for school closure. This is where your content supervisors are providing updated information, updated lessons, updated resources, and these things change almost daily, if not more often. So definitely come back here and check on this information. To get to Zoom, all we're going to do is click on the Zoom icon. It's going to take me into my Zoom login automatically. It's going to log me in as scott.richmond@sdhc, blah, 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 blah. And unless you've done this before, it may give you a prompt when you go there. It may ask you if you want to merge your account with Troy Suarez. That's Troy Suarez. Troy Suarez is not a stalker. He's not after you or your students. Troy is our supervisor of instructional technology, and he has set this up for us. So when you merge with him, you lose this 40-minute time limit. See this up here in green? You lose that 40-minute time limit, and you are now able to have conversations that go on longer than 40 minutes. You still have the 100-person meeting limit like I do, but you have that extended time limit. So that's an important thing here for this page. There are three other things I want to show you on the Zoom website. The first one is scheduling meetings. It's very easy to schedule meetings. You click on the meetings tab. It shows you all your meetings you have set up right now and when they are. And to do a new meeting, you click on schedule a meeting. So I'm going to call this my fake meeting number 5. And you guys feel free to laugh at me all you want, because guess what? I've been sitting in front of this computer now for 4 days doing nothing but Zoom training. That's all I do. 4 and 5 times a day is Zoom training. I'm actually holding a class for my HCC students tonight at 7 o'clock. I am excited to do something other than Zoom training. No offense, I love this. It's great. We're going to have a good time. It's a great resource, but I have to have some fun too. So my fake meeting number 5. You can set the date here by clicking on the calendar. I'm going to put mine on Sunday. We're going to have a really, really late happy hour at 9 p.m. on Sunday, and we're going to have a 2-hour meeting. Now, these 3 settings right here, the date, the time, and the duration, the only one that matters most is the date. The date has to be accurate. The time and the duration are only there for calendaring purposes. Your meeting will not start without you. You have to actually start your meeting at 9 o'clock. And by the way, I started the meeting today earlier than 9 o'clock or 1 o'clock for us. I started at 1:45. Hi, Alice.
Hello. I'm here.
Alice, everybody. Alice finally got on with her phone. She can talk with us, and I can see her lovely picture. You're doing great, Alice. Thank you for being here. And then duration, I made it 2 hours. It doesn't matter. This thing's not going to cut you off for 2 hours. It's going to end whenever you tell it to end. And so I've just set it up for 2 hours to block off my calendar for 2 hours. We're not going to change the time zone, but this piece right here, recurring meeting, may benefit you. Let's say that you want to have office hours in the afternoon from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. so your kids can come online and talk with you at that time if they have questions. You might set up a recurring meeting so that, you know how I sent you guys an email link today to click on? You would use the same link again and again and again and again. You wouldn't have to keep sending it out and a different one every time. So like I have 4 of these today, and each one has a different link. Whereas if I did recurring, because I'm doing it every Tuesday or every day at 1 o'clock, that would be the case. Or let's say you're an elementary teacher or a middle high school teacher and you want to do math at 9 a.m. and you want to do it every day. Well, then you would set it up that way. So 9 a.m. every day is math, and they would use the same link every day instead of having to redo it every day. Meeting ID, I don't mess with. I leave it as generate automatically. I do require passwords for mine because I have folks coming in all over and I don't want too many folks coming in. But for your students, you probably don't need the password feature. Next one is video. And this one here, this is the biggest spot on this screen, ladies and gentlemen, host and participant video. If you want them to be on, you click on. If you want them to be off, you click off. You can change the setting in the meeting itself, but it's nice to have it set ahead of time. So for our meeting today, I clicked both. But let's say I'm doing that Zoom chat tomorrow or Monday with my students, and I'm going to record it. I don't want their videos on. I don't want even an accident to happen. I would click off and they wouldn't come on at all. It just means the students can't do it without your permission, without you granting it. And so it doesn't mean you can't grant permission. It just means that right now it is off and it stays off. Next is audio. I leave this as both, and that's because some of your folks, and I know at least one of you on this call, called in with your telephone. And you can do that. You can call in with a phone as opposed to computer audio. And that may happen for one of many reasons. My boss, Jamelia Jackson, her whole neighborhood lost power. So she was on a Zoom call. She had to call back in using her phone. Obviously, no power. So she called into that meeting. I had someone else earlier today. Their computer was working fine for video. It was not working well for audio. So they called in to listen to me and then saw me on their computer at the same time. Last piece down here at the bottom, meeting options. This first one, enable join before host. Never, no, don't do it. X mark, no, don't go there. This would have allowed you guys to be in the meeting before me today. Can you imagine what some of your kids, I don't care if they're kindergarten or high school, might do in a chat without you there? You definitely don't want that happening, so do not check this one. Mute participants on entry. I always check that one because that way you guys come in muted, and I don't know why my button is not working. That's weird. But normally it would check that box. Mute participants on entry. Enable waiting room. There's some debate about this one, whether or not people can communicate with each other before they come in. I use them in my chats because it allows me, like I entered Jonathan and Alice early so we could talk before you guys came in. But I would enable that one if I wanted a waiting room, and I'll show you what that feature looks like inside. I don't use this feature, authenticated users. We'll talk about breakout rooms later on. And then if you wanted to make sure your call was recorded, you would click this box here. It will automatically record it and save it on your computer. And that would be if you had participant videos off and you're going to post it, obviously. You're not going to do it otherwise. So I'm going to click save, and it'll bring me to my meeting summary page. And this is where I can check all my information and make sure I put it in correctly. Here's the time. Here's my calendar invites I can do. I've got a meeting ID. I've got a meeting password. I've got a link. And this is the invitation I copied that I sent to you guys. So if I click on that, I get this nice invitation. I can click copy invitation, and I can paste it in EdgeB and put it out on the feed for my students. And I'll show you guys that feature in just a moment. What I would tell you is, you see where it says dial by your location? Everything below that is really unnecessary and irrelevant information. We can use everything above it, so you may want to delete this information where it says dial by your location, everything below that when you're sending out your message to your students. Also on this page, you can check your status for everything, and you can always edit the meeting. You can also start the meeting from this page. And so a lot of things going on in here. And if I click on my meetings, yes, hi Ariel, my cat is here. You can see here are my upcoming meetings, and I can edit them if I wanted to. I can start them if I want to. I can delete them if I want to. I probably should delete them because I don't think I'm going to be on Sunday doing this again and again and again. All right, that's part one on the website. Part two is the settings tab. So in the settings tab, I have not messed with this on my school district account because I want you guys to see what it looks like pretty much default. And so by default, host and participant video is off. But if you wanted to make sure your video was always on, you would click this button right here. And then every meeting you schedule will have your video on. With it off, you have to decide that every time you go in. Same thing with the audio type. You can default leave that to both, which it does that by itself. The join before host normally is turned off. So that's an important piece. Here's stuff about the passwords. There's other stuff in here about muting participants on entry. You can make that a feature that happens all the time just by clicking right there, and it goes on. I'm going to turn it off though, so it goes back to where I'm at. The chat feature, you can enable, disable the chat feature ahead of time on this website as well. So that's a huge piece. There's also information down here about a co-host. Some of you co-teach. Some of you may want to pair on with you. You may want to co-host, and this feature allows you to do that. A little bit further down, sharing screen. This part's very important, ladies and gentlemen. Sharing screen. By default, this program will let you share anything on your computer. Your participants can do the same thing. This is default. You can interrupt them. They cannot interrupt you or each other. That is the default setting. But if I click host over here and click save, now nobody can share but me. And I'm going to tell you, this is a feature you may want to enable this way, because we've had 2 incidents already this week with Zoom where students shared inappropriate content. They did it because the teacher had left all participants on, and they had the right to share whenever they wanted. So I'm going to leave mine back on default setting, but this would make sure no matter what meeting you set up, it's going to be set up that the host is the only one who could share. Annotation. I like this feature. I'm going to show you how it works later on. You can disable, enable ahead of time. This just means your participants can actually write on the screen when you're sharing something, and I'll show you how that works on the whiteboard as well. And then there's one more feature I want to show you down here in Meeting Advanced. That's the Breakout Room feature. Now, you may or may not use this. This is only for the host. But if you don't turn this setting on, you will not even have the option. So I want you to think about, you went to Publix today, you didn't bring your credit card, debit card, or any money. You can't buy any food. No option. You can't even do it. But if you brought your credit card, debit card, or money, you could buy food, or you could choose not to buy food. And that's the point here, because they ran out of your favorite, pasta or whatever. You turn this on, you have the option. You don't turn it on, you won't have the option in the meeting you're doing. So I turn it on so I get that option, and I can show you how it works. I'm going to scroll back to the top, and I'm going to come up here to the Resources tab. This is number 3, downloading the Zoom client. Now, if you don't understand what the word client is, let me briefly explain. Some of you access your school district email using ideas on the website. You go into Google Chrome, Internet Explorer, Safari, and you access it that way. And one thing you realize is you can't access things like PDFs via the website. You can't do it. It doesn't work. So you have to go download the first class client, the program called a client, and you have to open it there to go into PDFs and some of your other settings. The same thing is here true with Zoom. While you can run a Zoom meeting from a web browser, you get a whole lot more features and opportunities if you use the Zoom client. So I would highly recommend downloading the Zoom client to your computer. If you're using an iPhone, iPad, Android tablet, Android phone, same thing. They have a client available in the App Store, the Play Store. Download and use it. Now, when I'm hosting meetings, I 95% of the time use my computer. The reason behind that is it is more fully featured and has what's called true multitasking. Now, a lot of tablets have added multitasking, but it's not the same way. So many months ago, I did my first Zoom chat on my iPad because I was out of town. And I had to do it there and have my laptop with me. I had my iPad on. I did my Zoom chat with my class at Florida Southern. And I went to switch windows to do something else. And I keep moving now because I'm on a computer. But on my iPad, the second I switched out of the window for Zoom, my face got stuck like this. I went back in, I got stuck again like this. So you don't know what you're doing when you switch screens. So I had to later go on like this. And then I would switch screens. So realize that piece. There are some features that the desktop version offers you that the mobile device does not. It's not that you can't do it, but the desktop version is much more fully functioned. I'm going to stop my share now and bring you guys back together with me. And I'm going to share one more screen with you before we start talking about all the features that I have as a host and all the things I can do and what your participants can do. And that is going to be the EdgeB page. So let me get my documents up here for you guys. So if you're not familiar with EdgeB, because some of you are elementary and you've only used EdgeB for grade purposes and things like that, EdgeB is a great resource to communicate with your parents and with your students. And so my wife, Paul, is a teacher at Barrington Middle and did this screenshot for me because I don't have EdgeB access anymore. And so this is the dashboard page. And in here, this is the feed. So that link we were talking about a few minutes ago that you copied from the website, this is where you would paste that link for your Zoom chat. You could select all current classes or any one of your classes to send that out to. So if she was doing one only for first period, she would paste the link here. She'd click first period and click on share, and then only first period would see it. So that's the place to post the link. You can also email it, and that's through this piece on students. You have an option to email. And if your parents are connected to EdgeB as well, your parents can go ahead and get an email as well. You can send to both parents and students. I'm thinking of you primary teachers out there where the parents may want to be on with them a couple of times before they do this on their own. You could send the link out via email to both parents and to the students, and they would have the same EdgeB link, and it is smaller than the 25 megabyte limit you guys all got a pop-up about a little while ago in ideas. You ain't been there yet, you will get it very shortly. So that's the EdgeB page, and we'll come back to it again for posting videos at the end of the session. So right now, some of you probably are seeing me very, very large in your screen. I'm huge, and there's this little bit of you, okay? You are in what's called the speaker view. The rest of you, you may be in what's called the gallery view. If you are on the gallery view, then you're seeing what looks like the Brady Bunch. And so if that's the case for me, then Amy Patel, you are Alice, the maid. Alice Jones, you are Mrs. Brady. And whoever Hortolo is, you're Mr. Brady. I'm sorry. Everybody else, you all are the kids. So that's what my screen looks like right now. I'm going to show that to you. I saw a real quick question about Zoom being on Clever. No, Zoom is not on Clever for the kids. It does not have to be. The kids don't need a Zoom account. In fact, the only one who needs an account is the person hosting. So your kids and parents don't need Zoom accounts. They just need that link you're going to send them. Okay? So let me go back into my share, and I'm going to show you what these things look like now. So this is the speaker view. And notice I caught Jonathan in a great pose yesterday when we took the screenshot. This is the speaker view, and I have him really big and everybody small. Now, the bad thing about this view is if more than one person is talking, whoever has the floor and there's a yellow box around their name, they're going to be in this big screen in the middle, and it's going to keep changing over and over again. So I did this with a group of 23 college students, and they all kept talking at the same time, and my screen's going do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do, different people coming up. So this is the gallery view instead. This is one version with just two of us on, Carrie and I. And then this is the gallery view with the big group, what I just saw right now for you guys. So this is gallery view, and notice there is a button up here in the top right. If you're on a tablet or a phone, it might be top left, where you can toggle between the speaker view or the gallery view. So if you're seeing something like this, you're in the gallery view. If you're seeing something like this, you're in the speaker view, and you can switch back and forth between them. What I want to do now is kind of go over all the menus that I see. So I'm at the bottom of my page. Now, yours will look a little bit different right now because you guys are the participants and not the host. But as the host, these are all the things I see at the bottom of my screen. First of all, on the left-hand side, I have two things. I have the mute button and the stop video button. These are all about my video and my audio. This is not about my participants. It's about you and your device only, these two things right here. Then I have an invite button. What's that for? Well, let's say you started the chat already. You forgot to send the invite to somebody. You can quickly click this button, get a link, and send it to somebody in a text message or in an email or something like that. Manage participants. That's where I can manage everybody in the chat, and that happens to be the window showing over here. This is my manage participants window. You notice people with a red line through the microphone means their microphone's muted. Red line through the camera means the camera is off. I can control cameras here. So earlier I told you that if you wanted to have student cameras on to start your chat and then go and turn them off, this is where you do that. I would just click on the camera and it would mute or turn off that camera for each person, and they can't turn it back on till I let them. So that's an important feature there. If I turn them off, they can't turn it back on till I let them. So that's manage participants. Then you have the share screen button. It will always be green. We'll talk a lot more about this one. I'll show you all the features later. The chat we've already started going into, and I see you guys are using the chat with Jonathan and Alice. So that's a great piece. The record button. I mentioned I was going to record this session. So my button looks like this now because I'm recording. I can pause my recording. I can stop my recording, whatever I want to do with that recording during this chat. And when I'm done with all the basics of the call, I will stop the recording and then do a quick question and answer. Remember the breakout room feature I mentioned? If you don't check that box, it won't show up. So here it is right here. If I hadn't checked that box in the website, it wouldn't be here. Reaction, just that. It's like thumbs up or clapping emoji, stuff like that. And then I have an end meeting button over here so I can end the meeting anytime I want. So that is my view. That's what I see. And what I'm going to do now is show you each of these menus individually and what they look like. By the way, what I've done too is I've captured some Windows screenshots and some Mac screenshots. I am an Apple user. Every device I own is Macintosh, is Apple. And so I use dark mode because it's much more pleasing on my eyes, which is why my backgrounds are all dark. But this right here is a Windows screenshot of the menu for audio. And so I did it on Windows, so you can see it looks the same pretty much for both, just sometimes it's a little different in the background. In this window here, this is for your audio only. You click the up arrow, you get this setting, and you can change the microphone you're using, an internal, external microphone. You can use internal speakers, external speakers. I noticed Debbie Montesanti, you've got headphones on. That could work that way, yep. And then you could test things out here too. You can also switch your audio to your phone if for some reason your computer's not working well. For example, I was working with a lot of teachers from Pinecrest Elementary this morning, and they all have those Lenovo ThinkPads that notoriously have bad microphones on them. I don't know why it is, but they have bad microphones on them. And so they are able to use their phone for audio instead of that if you have this feature here. The next one, this is my Mac looking at the video piece. And so when I click the up arrow, I get three options. Which camera do I want to use? Most devices only have one, but if you had more than one, you could select it here. I can choose a virtual background. I'll show you in a minute. And I can play with my video settings. This is the Windows version. Same exact thing, just the menus are in a slightly different order and the background is light versus being dark. Again, you can change your virtual background, and I'm going to show you that one now for me. So let's see. Let me change my virtual background. Where am I going today? How about Edinburgh Castle? There we go, Edinburgh Castle. There it is, Edinburgh Castle. I'm sitting in front of it. So virtual background's kind of neat because, as I said, I've been sitting in front of this computer now for 4 days doing nothing but Zoom chats. And so looking at the same spare bedroom behind me can get boring after a while, and I want to look at something else. But there are two things to notice about virtual backgrounds, and Debbie Montesanti figured out one right away with her hair. Yep, it's great. Two things to know about virtual backgrounds. Number one, your computer may or may not handle it based on how old it is. So my MacBook Air laptop has a hard time with virtual backgrounds. The iMac I'm using right now has no problem with it, rendering it behind me. So that's number one to know about this piece. You also may have to download the client, the newer client from zoom.us. If you are not using the client, you will not have the option of the virtual backgrounds. Second thing to know about virtual backgrounds is that the virtual backgrounds are using what's behind you to try and change your image. And so the weird thing about it is if your clothing matches too closely the wall behind you, you could be sitting there with a floating head. I had that happen to me on Tuesday. Yesterday, I had this poor lady. I felt bad for her. Her skin was so pale, it matched the back wall, and all I saw was her hair and her shirt. Now, that's pretty creepy looking when you see that come up on your screen. So before you do this, make sure you test it out and make sure it works and looks okay before you bring students on and they're looking at you in some kind of virtual background. I see one of you is having a hard time. You are the virtual background, and the back of your screen is not showing it. Yeah, I'm watching you right now. So virtual backgrounds, again, is in the stop video button. I'm going to show you that again as I go back into sharing. It's in the stop video button, virtual background. And when you open that window, this is what it's going to look like, okay? By default, you may have some images in there. You can also add your own images by clicking on this plus symbol, and clicking on the plus symbol lets you add any image you want. Two notes about images. Number one, they need to be landscape. Otherwise, it doesn't look right. We were staying at Disney back in September for my daughter's birthday, and I went to the Magic Kingdom one morning, early magic hours. It was great. I mean, there was nobody in front of Cinderella Castle, kind of like it is right now. But I took a picture of it. I took it in portrait mode. I said, oh, that's the background I want. That's where I want to be right now. It turned on its side. And it looked really, really, really weird. So know that about the virtual background. Second thing to know about it is if your clothing blends too well with it, you're going to look weird. Like notice my hands disappear sometimes. I move them too quickly because it can't keep up with me where I'm going. So that's something to think about with the virtual background. And again, you'll find that under the stop video button. You can add any images you want if they're in landscape. You can download them off the web. You can also pull them up from your own camera roll or things like that. So the one Jonathan had on behind him a moment ago is one my wife took when we went to the Rise of the Resistance ride over at Disney at Hollywood Studios. Yep, that one there. Yep. All right, moving on. The next feature is Manage Participants. And so that's this button right here, Manage Participants. And when I click on that, I get a window like this. And in this window, you can see I have several features. So I have a waiting room with 20 people in it. I have an in-meeting room with 2 people in it. Only Barb and I were in there. You see Barb's camera was muted or turned off. And you can see I was recording the call. I can message you guys while you're in the waiting room, which I did today. I said, we're going to get you all in a few minutes. I can also admit you all at the same time instead of having to click admit, admit, admit. The one benefit about this is I was able to let Jonathan and Alice in early so we can have a conversation before we let you guys in. Down here at the bottom, I got mute all and unmute all. So that's where if I wanted to let all my students talk at one time, I can unmute them all, or I can mute them all at the same time in one screen. Speaking of that screen, here it is again, only zoomed in a little bit more. And you can see all the various settings you get in this participant window. So we still have the same items here and the same mute all, unmute all, but there's a more option. And in the more option, what it allows me to do is I can mute participants on entry. I can allow you to unmute yourself, which I have unchecked that box. I don't want you unmuting yourselves in the middle of things. I could play a chime. Will you guys stop? Sorry, my cats are fighting behind me. You guys can't see it because I'm in front of Edinburgh Castle. My cats were fighting behind me on the bed. Allow participants to rename themselves. Now, for you guys, I've allowed that. For my students, I probably would uncheck that. I don't know about you, but I taught 5th through 9th grade, and I had many a student who would name themselves Doofus or some other inappropriate name. So there you go. Lock meeting. I can check that if I don't want anybody else coming in after we started. Put participants in waiting room. So again, you were in a waiting room. When I uncheck this box, anybody in the waiting room comes right into the meeting and the waiting room is gone. So a good feature there to have people waiting for you. Down here, this is the Windows version of the same exact thing. And again, just a light background versus a dark background. But here are those same particular meeting things. And I didn't enable the waiting room on this one, is why you don't see that feature. But this is that same exact menu meeting. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come back to the main screen with you guys, and I'm going to give you a chance to rename yourself. So if you're on a computer, you can hover your mouse over your name, and you will have a 3-dot button in the top right-hand corner you can click on and go to rename. Now to show you I can do it too, Miss Patel, Amy Patel, I'm going to rename you if you don't mind. Are you Miss or Mrs.? Mrs. Okay, Mrs. Gotcha. All right, so I'm going to name you Mrs. Patel, and there you go. And so you can rename yourself as you want to. And so you have a proper name up there. So my colleagues at James invited me for their morning meeting next week. Tara, I don't think they can talk to each other. I haven't found a way yet. Somebody said they can, but I've been in the waiting room 10 times this week and haven't seen it happen yet.
I haven't been able.
So, what, John?
I haven't been able either.
Yeah. So back to this piece about renaming. If you turn off their right to rename themselves, you can rename all of them for yourself so you know who's in what window. And that's something I would do with students. But in this case, because we're all together, I let you guys rename yourselves. If I'm in this chat with the students on Tuesday, I'm going to rename myself Dr. Richmond. That's how they know me. So you can rename yourself by clicking on the 3 dots in the top right-hand corner. That's a piece you can do anytime. Also, a feature you have as a participant is the ability to raise your hand. So if you guys click on your participant window button at the bottom, you will see this window pop up, and you can raise your virtual hand. And the beauty about that piece is, for example, Mrs. Hendricks, you raised your hand. Hi there, how are you, Miss Hendricks?
I'm good.
All right, and I can mute and unmute you anytime I want. I can click on the next person who raised their hand, and I can unmute them and mute them again. So that's in the participant button. If you're on a computer, it's the bottom of the screen. If you're on a tablet or phone, it's the top of the screen. Hi, Miss Lawn, you unraised your hand. Debbie. Hey, Miss Maltasanti, how are you? I unmuted you for a second.
I need my mic. I'm doing good, Scott. Thank you.
Yep, you got it going on. Fantastic. All right. So I could do that if I was asking questions of my students. I could have them raise their virtual hand. I could unmute just one student, have them talk, and then mute them back. Because in my window, here's what I see when you guys raise your hand. I get this little icon here with a hand, and when I hover over it, I get a button I can lower hand just by clicking on it. I then have a mute, unmute button for you guys here, and I have the same 3-dot icon you have here so I can rename you guys. I can stop your video, start your video, mute you, unmute you, all those things in this window. There's a lot of opportunities to use this feature in your classroom. So just a great, great feature to kind of think about. Unlike me, where I have 181 people in this chat, 9 screens full of people, there's no way I could get to all of you at one time. But if you only had 20 students on with you or 24 students on with you, you could see them all in one screen. The next feature is the chat window, and you can see here we've enabled the chat window. It comes up on the right-hand side for me, and I can send messages to everyone or to individuals. Now, the important thing to note about this chat window, here it is blown up a little bit with some more features. I was privately messaging Sam Weiss. That's this piece here. But you see Mary sent to everyone. These 2 people sent to everyone, that kind of thing. Right now, you have 2 options in our chat. You can send a chat message to everyone, or you can send one privately to me. If you sent one privately to me, it probably has gone unanswered because I'm the only one who can see it, and Jonathan and Alice can't see it, nor can they respond. So for the sake of questions here, you want to make sure you're sending to everybody at this point. These menus here, you can change this one again on the website. I showed you that earlier, or here in your chat by clicking the 3-dot button on the right-hand side. When you do that, you get options that are hierarchical. In other words, no one means no one. They can't chat, but you can. Host only means they can send to you privately, and you can send to anybody. Everyone publicly means they can send to everyone publicly or to the host privately. And then this last one I would never use. Everyone publicly and privately means they can private message each other, and that's a very bad idea because can you imagine what your students would be saying to each other in the background where you can't view it, okay? And by the way, my camera, my chat only sees stuff that I do or that is public. So the thing I'm recording right now is not recording all your faces, it's recording what I'm seeing, which is my shared window right now and my voice. And the chat session is only recording this piece right here, everyone publicly, because it records the public comments, doesn't record my private comments to people. But I can message someone private, like Sam Weiss I'm doing here, and say, hey, Sam, I haven't seen you in a while. What's going on? And so that would only go to Sam and not embarrass him in front of all his classmates. Here's that same window again in Windows version. And again, the same thing here. You can see the same setting piece. We've set it up so everyone publicly is where you're at. But I know some teachers have said, I don't want my kids typing at all. I'm going to set it to off. And that's fine. They could be no one. The nice thing about this is if you have renamed your students, you will know who did the typing. And you can take a picture of it and send it to your principal or their mom and let them know, hey, so-and-so is doing something inappropriate. So that's kind of a real piece to cover yourself in this online day and age. We have sent out lots of stuff. Principals got it, and I think that's sent out to all of you that, best practices for being online. But it also tells our parents and students that, you are agreeing to do what's right and could be disciplined for not adhering to certain guidelines. Now we go on to the sharing feature. So here is the sharing feature in Windows. When I click share screen in my Windows screen, I get this thing that pops up. What it will allow me to do is I can share my entire desktop. I can share a virtual whiteboard we'll play for it with in a minute, and I can attach any device to my computer and share it as well. So like this gives me an option of my iPad or iPhone. I can also share any open windows. So here's an open Google Chrome window I was working in that I can share right now if I wanted to with you. Here's that same screen again, only in my Mac, and you can see I'm a Mac user, so I have tons of windows open. I can share a Word document with you. I can share a PDF. I can share a Finder window. I can share a PowerPoint. I can share something on a web browser. Anything I'm looking at, I can share with you guys in real time, and we can have conversations about what's going on there. The beauty of this is that we can work on documents together in real time, and we're going to practice that in just a moment. But before we get there, I want to show you the settings menus. So when I click on the up arrow next to screen share, I get a 3-part menu. See what it says here? 1 participant can share at a time. That means you guys can't override each other. So if I gave Ms. Hendricks a chance to share and she's sharing, the only person who can override her is me. I'm the only one who can override her. I don't ever check the second one, multiple participants. But then I can click on advanced sharing options, and when I do, I get this window right here. Now here's those same settings from the first part, Here's the second part. Notice it's on only host right now, which is why none of you can share. If I had it on participants, you'd be able to share right now, and that would be a bad thing. Down here at the bottom, you have this option, but again, I would never take it off a host. Now, the good news is if you forget to turn this setting off and a student shares something, you always have control to stop them. You always have control as the host to stop them. So that's something you can do. So we're going to go into the virtual whiteboard in a minute. And when we do, your screen will look something like this. And it will say you're viewing Scott Richmond's screen. Now, yesterday I was in Paula's chat is why I was able to see Paula's screen. You'll have a button that says View Options next to it, and you can click on Annotate. So I'm going to share the whiteboard with you guys now, and very quickly you'll be able to realize that you can write on the whiteboard just as I can. So notice I can text on my whiteboard. I can write in text, like a problem. I can go in and draw an answer. I can put a check mark next to it for doing a great job. I can put a star next to this because I really like it. And as you all are seeing, you can write on my whiteboard as well. That's because I've given you access to annotate. I can turn that feature off and you won't have the right to do it. But let's say I'm in the middle of this. We got some great stuff going on. We're solving math problems and, oh, I hit the wrong button and closed it. Well, the good news is because I didn't erase the whiteboard, everything is still there. Now I can save my whiteboard and then I can go ahead and clear the whiteboard and start over again and let you guys go again and do whatever you want on this particular piece. So while you guys are playing around and figuring out that it's up there in View Options and Annotate, while you're doing your writing, there's two things to know about this. Number one, you can't tell who's writing unless, like Tracy Tolbert, you put an arrow next to yourself. So that's something that's not always going to happen. So you may not know who's writing. You may have to have your kids classroom management, online control type thing. Second thing, you can share documents and annotate them too. So I'm thinking of you elementary teachers who before the break were getting ready for the writing assessment. You were working on an opinion piece with your students. You can put a PDF of an article up there and you can say, okay, boys and girls, I'm going to text mark the first paragraph. I'm going to underline this, put a check plus for something that agrees with it, check minus something that disagrees with it, and I do the first paragraph. Then I say, okay, Sheila, you're going to do the second paragraph. Okay, Miss Cochran, you can do the third paragraph. Okay, Miss Branna, you do the fourth paragraph. And so I can do something like that with the students in real time, and it doesn't affect the document itself. I can turn around and use it again with my next class. Math teachers, you can easily put a series of problems up here in a PDF, and you can write kids' names next to them, who's solving which problem. You write it up there virtually, they solve it virtually, and you go over things together. Reading, science, social studies, any subject, you could put stuff up on the screen and have a conversation about what's going on in there. But notice there is no knowing who did what unless you actually write your name in there or using the arrow. So it takes a little bit of practice and classroom management to make it work. Again, I can clear this out at any time and we can start over again.
There is one limitation also. If you do not have, like let's say you have a Chromebook, unfortunately, Chromebooks do not have access to annotate on anything. There are going to be certain devices, if they're not powerful enough or they do not follow what Zoom says for being able to annotate, you're not going to be able to do an annotation on there.
Thank you, Jonathan. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn back on the opportunity for participants to share. And if you click on that share screen icon on the bottom of your screen, whoever gets there first can share their screen with us, and we'll see what you guys got. And you'll see we can annotate on their stuff too. So Karen, you are the first one. Congratulations. So I'm going to annotate on your screen. And you see we can all write on her screen as well. So she shared an article. We can do the same thing. If you will click stop share, Karen, for us, please. Up at the top of your screen, Karen, you'll see stop share. There you go. Next person. Oh, there's Jonathan's desktop. Okay, unshare if you would, please. Next person. Thank you, Coach Michael. Ah, so you're showing us a web address and where we're going to go. We're going to Microsoft Office and learn how to do something in Microsoft Office, huh? So fantastic. You can see that. Anybody else? I'll give you guys one more chance and I'll show you I can stop it too.
Now, as a reminder, the share screen, it's going to depend on whether you're on a desktop or a mobile device. If you're on a desktop, it's going to be at the bottom of the window. If you're on a mobile device, it's going to be at the top. It will be green and it'll say share screen.
Yep, share screen button at the bottom is how you're going to share. I just turned off your features again with that little pop-up menu. I'm going to share that back with you so you guys can see it. Here is that share screen window. I clicked on the up arrow and I got this menu. I went to advanced sharing options and I changed this. Now this is only for me as the host. You won't see it right now until you are the host, but all of you have the share screen button and it should be enabled or disabled based on your settings. So right now I've got it back like this again where only the host can share. So that's a good point, but somebody's annotating. I didn't turn it off again. Please stop annotating whoever that was and clear your message out. I didn't turn that feature off. All right, thank you. So next feature is the breakout room. We'll spend a little bit of time on breakout rooms and I'm gonna tell you my advice on using this and tips and tricks and things like that. If you enable the breakout room feature, you can set up breakout rooms for you and your students. You can assign them automatically. So there's 181 of you. So I'm definitely not doing it manually. I will do it automatically. But let's say a great example for this is you are a co-teacher ESE. There's 35 kids in your class and the ESE teacher is going to take 5 of them and the Gen Ed teacher take the other 30. You could use the manual setting to put the ESE teacher with the 5 kids in one room and you, the teacher, with the other 30 kids in the other room. And then you could have smaller group instruction. You could then come back together and rotate again if you want to. So that's a really neat feature if you want to have some smaller group instruction. Be careful though, with the breakout rooms, know two things. Number one, your camera, your recording, you can only see the breakout room you are in. So in a moment, I'm going to create breakout rooms for us to use. And I'm going to actually create, let's see. I'm going to create, oh, not 44 breakout rooms. You can do up to 50, by the way.
Just remember, most of these features he's showing is from the host perspective. So you won't be able to see it right now, which is why he's showing screenshots of them.
I'm going to do 15 breakout rooms. You're going to go into them. When you go in there, you will find two things. Number one, you can unmute your own microphone. Number two, you can share anything you want again. So this is where it becomes dangerous if you put your students in a room and there's no adult to monitor them. So the example I gave you earlier of maybe doing breakout rooms with a co-teacher or a paraprofessional or someone else from the school, that will be a great option for that. Or maybe you have some parents who are stuck at home too and want to volunteer to help out in a room. They maybe volunteer at your school all the time. You don't know. Up to your principal, talk with them about it, what they want to do. But I'm going to put you in there and you can see these features and I'll pop in a couple of them and have a conversation with each other, okay? So here you go. You guys are going into the breakout rooms now. Hello, breakout room 1.
Hello.
How's everybody doing? Good?
Yes,
Good.
All right. You guys have fun. I'm going to breakout room 2.
All right.
Thanks. I was playing with them earlier with my team. We were using them for a team
Hello,
meeting.
breakout room 2.
Hi.
Hi. Good. I'll let you guys talk. I'll be back. I'll get you guys back in a few minutes. All right.
Okay.
It doesn't do that.
Hello, breakout room 7.
Hello.
Hey, Scott.
How are you guys?
Doing great.
We're good.
I'm going to leave y'all. I'll come back. I'll bring you guys back in a few minutes.
Those babies need to see each other as much as they need to see us.
Hi, breakout room 13.
Hi.
Hi.
I agree with you. Just make sure your principal is aware and somebody's
Okay.
upside down. You flipped your video. All right, guys, enjoy. I'm going to go to a different breakout room.
Lamona Elementary.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
You can come in any breakout room I want, but again, like I said before, it only sees what I'm seeing right now. It does not see the other 14 rooms, so I can't monitor them when I'm not in them.
Okay.
I'm going to bring you guys back right now. All right. Hi, everybody, and welcome back. So you see the breakout room can be a very useful feature, but it's something you want to be careful of. Now, my screen, what I see once you guys are in breakout rooms is this right here. And I can see who's in what room. I can actually click on a person and move them to a different room if I wanted to. I can leave a room, I can join a room. But again, I'm going to say this again because I want to make sure everybody understands it. The only breakout room I can monitor is the one I'm in. The only breakout room that I'm recording is the one I'm in. So I had 15 breakout rooms going on there. I was in one of them at a time, and who knows what was going on in the other 14. So I stressed my example earlier of having that other person, maybe if you have that opportunity to use the breakout room feature, it might be a possibility for you. I know the teachers I work with at James on Tuesday, we may break them out into breakout rooms, and each of us, there's 3 of us, will have some of the kids in there, so there's always an adult with them in that breakout room. So a neat feature, and again, you got to enable it ahead of time. The last thing I want to talk about is the recording. So remember, I'm recording this chat, so when I stop recording it, it will save a video file in Documents Zoom. It'll create this new Zoom folder for you, and it makes folders that are just by date and time, so it's really cool to go find them. And here's the webinar I did yesterday at 1 p.m. So what you get when you record is you get an audio file, you get a chat file, that's a chat window, and you get the Zoom file. It's an actual video file. It's an MP4. And some of you are like, what's an MP4? It's basically a universal video file. That's all it is. It's very easily uploadable to YouTube and shareable with students. And we'll talk about that right now, about what you should do to share your videos. Now, you have 2 options, ladies and gentlemen. You could start a Zoom chat like I did today, have no participants, do everything I just did, showing screens, showing documents, reading, blah, 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 and record it, and then post that to YouTube and send the link to your kids. Then do a Zoom chat later where you guys are live and you can see their pictures and you can talk a little bit and talk about the lesson they maybe watched ahead of time. That's option 1. Record yourself with nobody else on. I've done that many a time. Option 2 is you can record yourself with the kids on but have their videos turned off and then post that video to YouTube or somewhere else. I do know that EdgeB's been having some lag issues, especially because people are sending huge files via email in EdgeB. And so what I'm going to tell you to do when it comes to videos you save from this, they're all about 400 to 500 megabyte per hour. So you got an hour chat, it's about 400 to 500 megabytes. That's way too much for EdgeB to handle. My advice now, based on what I've been doing for the last 4 days, is you should create for yourself a professional YouTube account. I have one. I use my Gmail account. It is my professional Hillsborough County Public Schools channel. I have a channel just for these chats, and I'm putting all of my chats up there, and then I'm sharing the links with you guys. So whenever PDS decides to wake up again later and I can get in there, I'm going to send out, starting with Monday, a link to each of the chats I've done so people can go in and watch them. I've made them public. You could do the same thing, only you would upload to YouTube, and then you would post that link right here in EdgeB, in that feed place, and send it out to your class. So in the first example, if you were doing a video of just the lesson and you're going to use that same lesson for 2 classes, 4 classes, 5 classes, and there's no students there, you could send that link to every class. If you wanted your class, like first period or your morning time, to just see it, you might only send it to that one. And so that gives you a lot of options of hosting it in YouTube. YouTube definitely has the capacity. They're not going to go down and things like that. And the kids just need the link. And so if they can get the link from EdgeB, that's an option. You can also email the link if the parents want to be able to see it and watch it with their students. That's an option too. But YouTube is very, very intuitive. It's a drag and drop thing, ladies and gentlemen. You just basically take the video out of your folder in your computer, drag it on your browser, and it uploads it and then gives you a link. Literally, the worst part about it for me is the videos are 500 megabyte, and it takes, maybe 15 minutes for it to encode and process and all that stuff. But that's not a big deal. I mean, it's there. It's going to be there forever. And then I can go ahead and share that link with my students. By the way, if you do some of those self-recorded lessons ahead of time, guess what? You can use them next year as well for same kind of content. Let's say you've got kids who've been absent. Here's a link they can go to right away, and they can go ahead and view that video if they were out one day. And even though it's a different year, you're sharing similar content and things like that. So it's a great opportunity to share information. I'm going to stop my share now. I'm going to turn off my recording. I'm going to